Hello from beautiful Tenerife. We are spending a week in here, and because your girl has cake for breakfast, so I wanted to walk you through my new cake recipe. The fundamental is there, and the fundamental you already know about it, but I did find something new that I think will be interesting for you to see. So today we are going to make a marble cake. I already made several versions of this cake in here. However, the one that I've been making lately, it's quite good. So instead of us making two different batters, I'm just going to make one batter, and I will use, of course, vanilla pudding for the texture of the cake to make it a little more fluffier. And instead of making two different batters, I'm going to melt chocolate. Once the batter is done, I will sprinkle it on top. So it just makes the cake much easier to make. You have less dishes to wash at the end, and also because the chocolate is melted, sometimes while you are eating the cake, you have like drizzles of chocolate that have not been completely immersed in the batter. So it's just like you have a surprise of Nutella here and there. So I do want you to try this cake because it's quite good. Since we are in an Airbnb, we don't have our usual kitchen as well, our usual baking items. So I'm gonna use an oven tray. It's quite big, that's why the measurement's gonna be bigger than normal. However, you already know the base of my cake, so just follow the recipe. But for now, I'm gonna ask you to bring up your dry ingredients, separate them, and separate from the wet ingredients. We're just gonna make one batter, so let's get started. We need to melt our butter, so I'm gonna ask you to take 150 grams of butter and melt it in the microwave for about 25 seconds. It depends on how powerful your microwave is. This microwave here, as you can see, quite elementary, so that's why I'm gonna take maybe 30 seconds. We have no scale in this house, and my mom taught me a trick regarding measurements. So I need to think about the size of the normal butter, which is around 15 to 20 centimeters. So then if I think each package has like 400 grams, I would just need to then divide the 400 by the distance. I don't know, physics. My math should be working. So then if I separate it in half, that will be 200 grams. And then I can just think that half the package is 50 grams in each. So then you take it from there. Because mass and volume kind of correlate. So that's what we're gonna do. So here I have 25, 50, 150 grams of butter. So I need a bowl. This is the bowl I'm gonna use for the dry ingredients. So for the dry ingredients, I'm gonna use one package of vanilla pudding or flan. And this has, I'm looking for the grams. What doesn't it say? It has 148 grams. So this is it. My mixture here. It smells super vanilla. It's just great. This is flan mixture that I'm using, and it has here the caramel, but we're not gonna use this one. Then I have flour that already has baking powder in it, so we don't need to add any extra baking powder, which is great. So I'm gonna use 2 cups, and I will just take a cup from the shelf. You already know that I have no measurements in here and no scale, so that's why I am using whatever I have available in the kitchen. And in this case, we have glasses. So here I'm gonna use 2.5 cups, 2.5. We're gonna use 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of sugar, hint of salt. You already know you gotta add salt. And this is pretty much it for the dry ingredients. Just a heads up, if you do not have if you do not have flour that has baking powder in it already, you just need to use 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, combine. I don't have a Swift, I have nothing here. So at home, you would use a Swift and Swift everything. Now that everything is combined, let's work on our wet ingredients. We have our melted butter in here. We need 1.5 cup of soy milk. So 1 cup of soy milk, half of soy milk. I will also use 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. We should be ready now to combine both dry and wet ingredients. So let's get started. Baking doesn't need to be as difficult as one make it to be, okay? Although it is, in fact, it should be like, you should use exact measurements and whatnot, but if you're not in your kitchen, you don't have the normal things you have at hand, you have to improvise. Although I do believe most people go on vacation are not thinking about the fact that they need to make they need to be making cake for breakfast, but you know, all of us have our eccentricities, have our things that are a little bit unusual than the norm. The butter is nice. I need to add a little bit of flour because it's runnier than I would like it to be. But this is where you should know the consistency of the cakes that you make. And even if you try to follow the recipe at hand, because of different types of flours and whatnot, the moisture retention is always different. So I like my butter to be on the thick side, and that's the way that it grows best on my cakes. And because I'm not using eggs or anything similar, so I always need to be a little bit more mindful of that. So even though I try to make my measurement as precise as possible, but it's always a little bit tricky due to the type of flour you can use, the type of flour I am using. So this is the batter that we want, thick. Okay, so now let us preheat our oven. You see the difference of the dough? You want this batter to be thick, okay? Perfect. I am preheating my oven at 170 degrees. It's gonna be for two. So I'm gonna preheat everything for 5 minutes before I even add my butter. We have our cake form, which will be this tray. I already told you I'm not home. It's time for us to melt the chocolate, and for that I'm just gonna boil some water. And we have here our chocolate. For this, you just need to add it to a bowl or a plate, and then I will be pouring the hot water in here. The chocolate will be melted, and then we sprinkle on top of the batter. In the meantime, let's make sure our cake pan is greased to the gods. So here we have it. Even if we don't finish all the cake, we will be taking it to Las Palmas. But having cake, especially chocolate cake with my black tea, has been the highlight of my morning. Our cake form is ready. Also, it's easier once you add the butter and make sure that your pan is all greasy. It's easier to clean afterwards. I wouldn't know why, but I'm certain the science is there and there's culinary papers about it. Clean the hands. I guess we're gonna have a big arsenal of caramel we're not using. Cooking is all fun and games, but all the cleaning up, ugh, nobody's happy about it. And we're gonna pour I will be submersing the chocolate in hot water for about 40 seconds to a minute. It doesn't need to be completely melted. I just needed to be able to squeeze it on top of the batter so we can then stack it. So we can then just make some swirls. Swirls. Okay. You can also, I guess, You can melt the chocolate in a different way. This is the easiest thing for me to do at the moment, but the options are infinite. Just be careful if you're going to put it in a microwave. You might need to add soy milk or butter, and you need to remove it from the package because it has aluminum, and you don't want to put that in the microwave because you will be without a microwave in a house. Don't tell me how I know this, but I know it by experience. Our chocolate is melted, so it's showtime. Ay, ay, ay. So now that our butter is inside, just spread it around. Make sure that all the corners are set. The dough is quite tasty. I like what I've made so far. I don't know if this is just something that it's normal in Portugal and in Spain, but our people love to have flour that is already has baking powder because it's so much easier to bake like that. You don't need to get extra stuff. It's much easier. And I keep saying, I really am okay with having been born in this generation because all the things we have around us, I love. So now I have here the chocolate. I'm gonna open it. Curious to see if there is. Ooh! Okay, so we're gonna we're gonna squeeze the chocolate on top, making sure that everything has some chocolate in it. You see, it was so easy to melt the chocolate like that, and with no fuss, a lot of work required. I love an unproblematic baking session. This cake will be baking for 45 minutes, just so you know. Now that our chocolate is on top, we want it to be in the bottom as well. So you have to then dig in on the dough and just mix it around. Make your swirls. Allow the batter to mix, but not over mix it, okay? Because you still want the marble effect. And it's just the best once everything is merged together. So now that I think I am satisfied with what I see, our cake will go to the oven. There is not much you need to do. Don't overthink this. Done. We have a small heart. Let's bake. This oven was not preheating. I guess you need to add timer for it to preheat. That's the thing about cooking in a new space. There's always hiccups, but it's okay. We wait. We have the time. Now that everything is set, I always like to heat my butter on the corner just to make sure that everything is leveled, okay? The cake is ready. Let's take it out the oven. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, it's hot. Everything is hot. Everything is hot. Soft. I just need to understand if it's entirely cooked. So I'm going to use a toothpick, or in this case, a knife. Now we wait. So fluffy. Beautiful. You want to try?
Not bad.